you bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. Ready? This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go! And a good morning, Eagle fans. It is a Tag Tuesday here on Birds 365 with Tag or franchise tag. Today is the deadline for those teams who are still considering using it to give it out or hold on to it for another 365 days. That's just one of many things we're going to talk about today on Birds 365. It's the Mac and Mac guys, McMullen and McDonald. One of those days on the calendar of note, Johnny Mac, because as I just stated, franchise tag deadline is today. So I'm going to start by asking you the same question I asked my buddy Brennan Lee Gouton on WIP last night. Percentage chance, and I know it's low. How low can you go that the Eagles use the franchise tag on someone today? I think the only true candidate is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I don't think anybody else got a prayer to get a franchise tag. So Chauncey or not, the percentage chance that Howie Roseman chooses to slap a franchise tag on one of his players?
I would say 10% or potentially a little bit less. He doesn't like to use it. But I find it hard to believe that's the player he's going to use it on. People, I mean, it's just the history of this team. Good player,
so
but
a safety. You're saying that Howie Roseman's not something as quote unquote big as a franchise tag.
It's I look at Marcus Williams. I brought it up yesterday on the show, and the Eagles bailed out, and he got 5 years, $70 million. So essentially $12 million a year. Now it's kind of built in a little bit. But it's kind of built in that the numbers are going to go up a little bit each and every year, and the salary cap goes up. So you expect the safeties to make a little bit more. I think the franchise tag is $14.4 million. I don't think two things: the value of the position, number one, that's a big part of it, and the second part is, I don't know if he's that type of player. I don't know if he deserves to be the top paid safety in the NFL. Where are the Eagles on that? Obviously, they traded for him. Obviously, they want him back. Obviously, it's one of those situations where it's a difficult decision for them, but I just don't see the position and the player. I don't think he's top of the line at that particular position. I know he's coming off. I talked about leverage. He's coming off a tremendous season. I'm not downgrading that. Playmaking a player, and that means something rather than sort of just the functional, is going to do everything right type of player. I think there's value to somebody who's a playmaker, and Chauncey's certainly that. Boy, I'll be shocked if they put it on him. In other words, this is pretty much where I come down, Joe.
Yeah, functional safety is the other free agent safety that the Eagles have. Marcus Epps would fall into that category, and no one's talking about giving him a franchise tag. And maybe this is foolish thinking on my part, but I think it's got at least niggle in the back of Howie Roseman's mind. they could really get shut out here. They could watch free agent after free agent after free agent walk out the door if think Hargrave's going to be too expensive, Bradbury's going to be too expensive, and Tim McMahon is putting rumors out there that the Browns are willing to pay heavy for Brandon Graham, and Fletcher Cox could be elsewhere. They could watch a stream of free agents go out the door. At least with the franchise tag, you're locking in one guy. If you can't get a contract done, and they've been negotiating with who they've been negotiating with, then I'm getting nothing. You got better sources than me that they're actually making progress with guys or getting close with. I know none of the Eagle free agent that would fall into that category. So if you slap the franchise tag on, at least you know, all right, we got one. It's better than zero. If zero is what you're sitting on right now, and that's what they are with free agents. We had the lengthy conversation about how he admitting that he did business differently this year because he didn't want to mess with the mojo of the team off to the undefeated start. And now they've got to pay the price for that and try and pull off all these deals. If you get one done, one is better than none, is it not, Johnny Mac?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't have any doubt the Eagles are going to bring certain players back. I don't think they're going to get shut out. So that's number one. Now, it might not be the players the fan base wants, but when you talk about all their free agents, and I talked about sort of the one or the other group, TJ or Kaiser, Chauncey or Marcus, Javon or Fletcher, Isaac or Jason Kelsey, which has more to do with retirement, obviously, for Jason. They're going to get players back. There are certain players they're probably not going to get back. James Bradbury probably leading that list. I think everyone understands that. And we'll see where the market goes. But CJ, because he's the so much, that's the second part, Jody. I should have brought that up. I don't think he's going to get the money people think he's going to get on the open market. For two reasons. One, big personality. I mean, big personality, and that scares people. Right or wrong, that scares people. It scared the Saints, to be blunt. And they had him in the building. There are only certain organizations. Then you come back to what he did, with the quick tweet, the tweet and deletes about the defensive coordinator. So think about that from another team's perspective, Jody. And that's probably why his agent was probably on the horn right away and said, look, CJ, please take that down. This guy had a career year, whether you want to give Jonathan the credit or Denard Wilson, who's now gone, or Chauncey himself, whatever. He had a career year, whatever you want to place and the player deserves more credit always than anybody else. But, the point is, after that type of season, he's still throwing coaches under the bus. There's no other way to look at it. And how does that framework look to another organization, to another defensive coordinator, to another head coach? Because it's unlikely, as I always go, the regression to the mean theory, it's unlikely things are going to go as well next season, even if he stays here. It's very unlikely. And when is that frustration going to bubble up to the surface of this big personality? I don't think he's getting $14.5 million on the open market, is my point, Joe.
Fair enough, but I will say this, and you and I have both been around this game long enough, and you're closer to coaching staff guys because you're in the locker room, you're there every single day. Oh, there are coaches out there that say, give me the talent. I'll coach him up. I'll work with him. I'll get the most out of him. I'll smooth off those rough edges of foolish things that he says on social media. Always give me the talent. I'll deal with everything else in whatever way that I need to. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I guarantee you there are guys in the league that are ready to say, when someone comes in with a pay, well, do we really want to give him $14 million when he's a big personality, as John McMullen describes him accurately? So, there's coaches who go, yeah, give me the talent.
Hey, Nick Sirianni's one of them. Nick Sirianni's one of them. Yeah, I agree with you. Our buddy Marcus Hayes, who I tried to get on the program, but he had something to do, and he was on with the afternoon guys, so people should check that out on the JAKIB Sports YouTube page, youtube.com/@JAKIB Sports. But Marcus did the piece on Denard Wilson and whether it was inspired, whether it was mutual, whatever. If you get past that and go into the depth of the column, part of it was about Chauncey and that personality and Denard Wilson keeping him in step. Big personality. And you better have confidence. And you're right. There are certain coaches who have confidence. There are certain coaches who don't and are not in a position to take that on. And the lesser, options you have, what's the thing when making a deal? You want as many people bidding to bump up the price. The more you close that, the more unlikely it is to get to the number you want. The Eagles don't use the franchise tag in general. We all know that. Is this the player they're going to use it for? I just find that hard to believe, but we'll know at 4:00 this afternoon.
Right. If you are judging what the Eagles done over the last decade, the answer is no. Of course they're not going to. They haven't used it in a decade. Why would they use it here? Because this is a different situation. The Eagles have more free agents coming into this offseason than they've had in the Howie Roseman era. And the reason is, as he explained to us in Indianapolis, they went off their usual modus operandi. They didn't attempt to extend anybody because they didn't want to have to pick and choose and create a dynamic in the locker room that might not keep the mojo going the way it was when they were undefeated. So I think you have to view it through that light. It's not, well, they haven't done it in 10 years. No, just this year. What is sitting in front of them? What evaluation do they have to make? How do they have to do a roster build going into 2023 with all these free agents? That's the reason why I'm not putting it 0. When I had Brandon Lee Gatton on last night, he said 0. Not 0.0001. He went flat 0, no chance.
I probably went too high at 10%. I like Brandon 0. I'm not going to go 0 because I never like to go 0, but
right, same
because
here.
There's always strange circumstances, but it's unlikely. I think that's pretty clear. And I think your assessment of you don't want to get shut out, well, that's kind of baked in. You're not getting shut out. I mean, there are players that want to come back. I still think Brandon's going to be back. I don't care what people say about Cleveland. And don't get me wrong, Jim Schwartz loves Brandon Graham. Loves him. You know who Cleveland also has? Andrew Berry and Catherine Raish.
Right.
You know who they learned under? Partially, not all, but partially, Howie Roseman. Now, Brandon has tremendous history here. He doesn't have history in Cleveland. He's also going to be 35 in early April. It doesn't make any sense from a roster building perspective unless you consider yourself a contender, a real contender. Can you honestly look at yourself as the Cleveland Browns and say, hey, we're a real contender?
Well, they're going to sell it that way to Brandon.
Well, they might because of
then
Deshaun
you have to
Watson.
do your own evaluation, but they're not going to go in and, hey, Brandon, we want you to help us elevate from being a team that had no chance to make the playoffs last year because of Deshaun Watson's situation to a team that's got a shot. We think we have a shot to be a wild card team. Yeah, that's not going to
No. You misunderstand. No, you misunderstand what I'm saying, Jody. I'm not talking about the recruitment of Brandon Graham. I'm talking about the Cleveland Browns and their self-evaluation process of why would you want a 35-year-old defensive end who has no history with you? So you kind of leave out the leadership parts that are so important here in Philadelphia, other than Jim Schwartz likes him, knows him, and all that kind of stuff. If you're Andrew Berry and you're being honest with yourself, if you're Cat Race and you're being honest with yourself and building a football team, you don't consider yourself a contender. If you're not a contender, you're not signing 35-year-old defensive ends to get over the top. I'm not talking about the recruitment. I'm talking about they got to be honest with themselves, and they don't need 35-year-old defensive ends.
All right, I'll play devil advocate again. If I'm Andrew Berry, you bring in Brandon Graham, and you put him around all the young talent you have on your defensive line. You put him around the defensive guys you do have on, even down linemen, linebackers, safeties, for leadership purposes. That he's going to come in And he's going to help these guys grow and let them see what it takes to become a Pro Bowl level player in the National Football League, that you're paying a price to get his experience, to bring him into your room, so that by him being around those guys and talking those guys up, even after when Brandon's gone, and I think it'll just be a one-year deal, so it'll probably be one and done, that you've improved the mindset of some of your other players that you're going to have in the room who are going to outlast Brandon Graham.
Well, look, Brandon can help anybody. I mean, Brandon's one of those guys who truly is, just sort of sweats leadership. I mean, he's going to bring in, but you already got a 27-year-old all-pro defensive end there, who you can look to and say, hey, do what Miles does. As far as that perspective, I just don't think it makes sense from Cleveland's perspective where they are roster building. And, oh, by the way, Brandon wants to stay here. So I don't see Cleveland coming in and saying, oh, we're going to give Brandon Graham so much more money than the Eagles that he can't turn it down. From Cleveland's perspective, it just, other than the Jim Sports connection, who loves him, and why wouldn't he? It doesn't make sense for where Cleveland is.
All right. I know it's been more than a decade, and this will annoy people when I roll it out there, but the last time I remember that speech being made, there's no way he's going to leave. He's too tied to the team. He's older. He's not going to want to go. And next thing I know, it's B-Dawk coming in to play for the Denver Broncos at Lincoln Financial Field. So it does happen. Guys that you don't think can go anywhere will go anywhere. He's made his entire career, and then he's in another uniform. Sorry to bring that up, but it's a fact.
Oh, it happens. It happens all the time. You think about some of the legendary players, whether it's your guy Joe Namath limping around in a weird-looking uniform, Emmitt Smith in an Arizona uniform. And that's another part. It usually doesn't end up well. Brandon's been pretty consistent. He wants to play 15 years and he wants to finish here. Whether it happens or not, I'm not saying, I'm not closing the door on him leaving, because he said also it's more important for him to get to 15 than it is for him to finish in Philly. He wants both, but he wants 15 more. He wants 15 seasons. So if the Eagles say, you know what, we don't want a 35-year-old defensive end. Thanks for the memories. It's possible, but I just don't see Cleveland's, if they were a legit contender, I could see it. I could see it 100%. But boy, they're lying themselves if they think they're a contender, especially in the AFC. In the AFC, remember, not the NFC where you can jump up. But you never know.
Oh, I don't know how much they'll be lying to themselves or how much they'd be lying to BG. But if they want the player, you do what you got to do to get him. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We're Mac and Mac here on Birds 365. The combine is officially wrapped. Yes, it's transition tag Tuesday in the NFL, and we'll get the thoughts on will the Eagles use the transition tag with our next guest. But he's been putting up some great stuff from the combine this week, opinions on the players that the Eagles should be looking at, could be looking at, maybe drafting by the time we get to April. Tommy Lawler from EaglesBlitz.com, longtime Eagle reporter, is going to jump aboard with us. He's next here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Jeff D'Ambrosio doesn't need a special event to appreciate his customers. Jeff shows his appreciation to them every day of the year. Jeff makes sure to stock more new inventory than anyone and guarantees prices and payments that nobody can beat. There are so many reasons that thousands of customers know Jeff is the easy, friendly place to do business. More for their trades. No judgment zone for credit issues. The best, most reliable service department in the country. That's why I like Jeff, and I know you will too. Jeff will satisfy you every day. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Owner Appreciation Event.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Plan your day with confidence.
Keep the umbrellas on hand.
With Action News and AccuWeather.
Numerous tornadoes.
Your go-to team when severe weather strikes.
The water is still rising.
Keeping you prepared wherever you watch. Action News and AccuWeather, the team you trust.
Appreciate you streaming on in here on Birds 365, the McAmaster, Colin, and McDonald. We've got a Bud joining us. He's hopped on plenty during the season. I've been on his site, eaglesblitz.com, during the combine, and he's written some pretty interesting, not only scouting reports, but also potential uses for some players the Eagles may have. Tommy Lawler, always good to catch up with him here on Birds 365. TL, did you enjoy watching all that combine stuff?
I do. I'm one of those weird people that watches every minute of it, record it, and rewatch it again. And it just gives you another exposure to the draft prospects. And, hey, listen, that may be the next Jason Kelsey or Brandon Graham out there. So you get to watch them a little bit, get to learn a little bit more about them, figure out who's a good fit.
Yeah, you're right, Tommy. I mean, one of the things is sort of trying to I try to do is look for those players, maybe day 3 players that have the traits that turn into the next Jason Kelsey or something like that. So from that perspective, I find it very valuable. I did check out eaglesblitz.com. I did some great work with the offense and defense. We always start with quarterback, so let's start there. The Eagles could be in the market for a backup quarterback. Obviously, they're not going to take a quarterback at the top of the draft, although you never say never with the Eagles. They did it once. I don't see it happening. But if you're looking at day 3 picks, so we're talking 4th, 7th round. Now, the Eagles don't have anything till the 7th round, but we all kind of know how he's going to manipulate. I'm going to say they're going to have a pick. Right now, they don't have a pick after the 3rd round until the 7th round. I'm going to guarantee right here they're going to have some picks, whether it's 4th, 5th, or 6th round. Any quarterbacks stand out to you that could be potential cost-effective backup quarterbacks for the Eagles?
Yeah, one of the guys I wrote about, and first of all, I totally agree with you. He will add picks in those rounds. He'll do some moving down and try to acquire picks there because they need some young players on this roster. One of the players I wrote about was Stetson Bennett from Georgia, who gives off some Gardner Minshew vibes, kind of a cocky, weird player. But unlike Minshew, he's got a better arm and he's an outright good athlete. Ran, I think, in 4.67 in the 40 and didn't even really look like he was running hard. In the passing drills on the field, he had some of the better deep balls of any of the quarterbacks.
I was surprised, Tommy, how big his arm was.
Yeah,
I did not know that was coming. I did
He's
not
got a good
know.
arm,
Yeah.
and those deep balls, it's not just about gunning the ball, it's about accuracy and touch, and you're playing with receivers you've never played before. So that guy takes off and you throw it to a certain point, and his were all caught. Really impressive showing by him. Now he's 25 years old, and you don't like older prospects. You're getting a guy who's already in the middle of the prime of his career, so that devalues him a little bit. And yeah, he's 5'11", 193 pounds. That's a small quarterback, but if you're looking for a backup, that might be a guy of interest. One of the reasons you'd like him is that he's a guy who can do the RPO stuff, and we know when Gardner Minshew took over for Jalen Hurts this year, that changed the Eagles' offense. So they were able to still score points and do some things with Minshew, but they might prefer somebody who could do more of the same things as Jalen Hurts. And another player that I wrote about is Dorian Thompson-Robinson from UCLA. And he's a guy that is an outstanding athlete and really impressive. He played for Chip Kelly for the last 5 years. And if you watch UCLA games, he made crazy plays on a regular basis, running around with a football. I think it was against Washington State, jumped over a defender. And so that's a guy who's really dynamic. Had the fastest ball speed of any quarterback at the combine, which surprised me because I didn't think his arm generated that kind of force. The downside with him, he's had an issue with fumbles. Obviously, that's something Nick Sirianni is not big on, but would have to coach up. And in the passing game, he's erratic. You can see he's got the physical tools. UCLA ran a very run-heavy offense that mixed in some passing, so he needs a lot of coaching and development as a passer. But the raw physical tools are there, and if that guy's available in the 5th or 6th or 7th rounds, that might be great value and somebody worth taking a chance on.
I kind of like Thompson-Robinson. I like his running back better, Zach Charbonnet. And he could be an interesting guy if he's sitting there in the second round with Eagles choose the second round pick. I know you wrote about this, and we're on the same page here. I certainly not at 10, and I don't even think at 30, even if the Gibbs, who's the second best back ranked by most pre-draft mock experts, I think Charbonnet is actually the second best back. But you don't think the Eagles going to use a first round pick on a running back, do you? No chance, no shot.
99.9% chance, no shot of pick 10. 30 would be a possibility only because then you would have the player under contract for 5 years. And if it's the right running back, one of the things we have to be honest about as we look at the draft now is allocation of resources, because you're getting ready to hand your quarterback $50 million. You've already paid one of your wide receivers $25 million. So all of a sudden you need a running back who's going to be cheap, right?
Yeah.
If you draft a guy at pick 30, he's under contract for 5 years, and first round picks at the bottom of the first round get reasonable contracts. So there might be value in taking a running back there from a financial standpoint, if there's a player you like. I agree personally. Jahmyr Gibbs, I'm fascinated as heck by him, but I would rather get a guy who's a little bit more of a powerful runner. The Eagles offense, the most fun I've had watching this Eagles offense was in 2021 when Jordan Howard was running. And if you watch some of the games, he came in, and when he started running the football, the whole tone of the offense changed. The offensive line got fired up watching him run through people. So I'd love a little bit more of a downhill running back. And Zach Charbonnet is a guy that I like quite a bit. So if they could draft him in the second round, I'd be very happy with that.
Agreed.
Well, let's talk downhill then. I won't talk about Derrick Henry because that's silly, but big name on the trade market supposedly. But Bijan Robinson, Dane Brugler from The Athletic is ruining my life today because he put out his new mock draft. And you guessed it, Tommy. He didn't have the Eagles taking Bijan at 10, but he had them trading down to 14 and taking Bijan Robinson. Now, I before you jump in, in 2017, I got it from a good source. Take that from what you will. The Eagles would have drafted Christian McCaffrey if he was there. So, a lot of these narratives that the Eagles won't do this, won't do that, they're kind of, the context isn't there. It might take a special player, but if that special player's there, They haven't taken a cornerback in whatever 20 some odd years in the first round. But they would have taken one if J.C. Horn had got to them or Patrick Surtain got to him in the Devontae Smith season. So that's how close it could be for, sort of dismissing some of these tropes. Running back, typically, the Eagles aren't even thinking about it. Is Bijan Robinson that special of a player like they thought Christian McCaffrey was to make them change their thinking?
I think it's possible. And it's funny you talk about Dane saying that. One of the ideas I kicked around watching the combine, because in between drills, there's a lot of time just to watch and think. And as you watched him, you saw how talented he was. I thought, what if they did trade down from 10 to the middle 15, 20, somewhere in that range? And all of a sudden, that guy becomes incredible value, because you're talking about the fifth or sixth best player in the draft and getting him in the middle of the first round, and you've traded back and added mid-round picks. And the reason that you like him is because he's a very good running back, but he's also an outstanding receiver. And they showed clips during the combine of him catching the ball. We're not talking about just screen passes, catching the ball in wheel routes 25 yards down the field, lining up outside and catching the ball 5 yards downfield. And we know, if you go back and think about, the Colts game, the final drive of the game, you get Miles Sanders loose 30 yards down the field, and Jalen Hurts threw the ball. It drew a pass interference penalty. But was there a ton of confidence that Miles Sanders would have caught that pass? Not for me. Not for me, right? History says probably not. If you're throwing that ball to Bijan Robinson, you're going to expect him to make that play because he's got that on tape. He's got that in his background. And it could be that Nick Sirianni would say, listen, a lot of people might tell you the Eagles don't throw the ball to their running backs very much. You say, well, is it a chicken or the egg thing? Is that the design of the offense, or is it the running backs, aside from Kenny Gainwell, just aren't particularly good receivers? And if you add somebody with that kind of talent, all of a sudden that opens up a whole new part of the playbook and makes linebackers and safeties defend a whole nother facet of the offense. So Bijan Robinson to me is a special player and is somebody that the Eagles ought to at least consider. There's no way they'd take him at 10. I just can't see that. But if they traded back, added those picks and said, and again, think about value, and you say, we're going to have a special player under contract for 5 years. And at the middle of the first round, again, he's not making $10 million a year. So you'd have him financially where it would make some sense, and you'd add an elite playmaker to a pretty dynamic offense.
Yeah, but he better be Christian McCaffrey, because not just Eagles, but the league is trending toward not caring about whether you got that fifth year or not. They'd rather have the running back for just 4 years, and then if they've got to churn and go in another direction, they can do so. I forget about a position the Eagles will or won't be taking at 10, a spot that they absolutely can use and probably going to need to, because they're going to lose at least one of their two starting quarterbacks. We talked about Slay earlier and some of the issues here in town. Don't think they're going to move away from him, but it's not a zero possibility either. At the cornerback position in the draft, most of the mock guys I'm seeing, most of the things I heard on NFL Network, it's either going to be Witherspoon from Illinois or Christian Gonzalez of Oregon. Either one show you a reason to rank one over the other? If you think Joey Porter should be in that conversation, please say so. How do you rank the best corners in this draft?
Witherspoon is the best player. And the downside with him, he's 6 foot, 181 pounds. So that's not ideal size. That's plenty big for the NFL, but it's not ideal size. He's not a special athlete. We didn't see him work out in Indy. I think he's got a hamstring issue, if I remember correctly. His pro day is coming up the end of this week, so we'll get a chance to see him then. If he's healthy, if not, he'll reschedule another pro day for a couple of weeks down the road. But in terms of his ability to play the ball, to hit, to tackle, and not just play the ball, but catch it. And one of the things that you don't like about Joey Porter is that he played for 4 years at Penn State and had one interception. And we know that the Eagles are obsessive on takeaways.
Oh, yeah.
You've got to have cornerbacks that can catch the football. That was the best selling point for James Bradbury. If the ball's near him, he's going to catch it. And so with Witherspoon, I think that's one of the things you'd like about him. He's a guy that can catch, but he's also, like I say, he's an outstanding hitter and tackler. And he specializes in playing off the ball. So, if you go get a guy like Joey Porter, he's a press man corner. The Eagles just don't play that much press man, and I don't think under Sean Desai that's going to change a great deal. So to me, Witherspoon is the best corner in terms of being ready to play, and I think he's a good fit. Christian Gonzalez is the most interesting guy because he's 6'1", 197 pounds, ran a 4.38, jumped 41.5 inches. So you're getting an explosive athlete who's long. He's a solid hitter and tackler, and he's got good hands. He made some incredible catches at Oregon this year. And so he's got the biggest upside. He's the guy who could become a stud corner. Witherspoon could be a very good player, but Gonzalez has a higher upside. So you kind of have a question of, do the Eagles want the better athlete with the higher upside or the guy who's more ready to play? And if you're taking him at 10, think about the last couple of years. We saw what Sauce Gardner did for the Jets as a rookie. We saw what Patrick Surtain did for the Broncos as a rookie. If the Eagles really believe one of those guys, if they could get one of them and they play at that level, that's a home run, and that really helps this defense.
Yeah. Let's stick on the defensive side of the football, Tommy. One guy who kind of opened everybody's eyes was Kalijah Cansey, the undersized defensive tackle from Pitt. We've heard that before, by the way. I don't want to make that comparison for obvious reasons, but it's unfair to call anybody the next Aaron Donald. But because of the size, because of the explosiveness, some have went down that road. Two-pronged question. You mentioned Sean Desai, the new defensive coordinator. There's some uncertainty. We don't know until we actually see it, but we do know his history, his Vic Fangio sort of influence. It seems like the Eagles are going to stick with the Fangio type of scheme where you need the big nose tackle for the 5-man fronts. You need the 4-eye technique guys. That's not Kalijah Cansey. But yet, some have speculated, even with Javon Hargrave, you think about the Eagles could be losing him. He's not necessarily a fit for this particular defense, philosophy-wise. So do they just want talented players? That's point number one. Point number two, the NFL as a whole, undersized guys, are they turning a little bit? We're going to see Bryce Young, a quarterback, Cansey at defensive tackle. We have Devontae Smith here in Philadelphia. Are people getting more open-minded when the measurables aren't there from a size, strength perspective?
Oh, absolutely. On that front, I did some training with an NFL scout. 25 years ago, and he had worked for the Raiders, and he said, here are the rules. And if a prospect is 25, you don't take him; he's undraftable. If a prospect doesn't meet these size thresholds, you don't take him; he's undraftable. I know when Bill Polian was with the Colts, they had a rule: if a cornerback runs more than a 4.55, you don't take him; he's undraftable. So there used to be these things where people said, here's these numbers or these thresholds, and if you don't meet these thresholds, then you don't go on our draft board. Now maybe we take a chance on you as an undrafted player, but we're not spending resources on you. Now you see the NFL going, you know what? There are different shapes and sizes and speeds, and we'll take chances. And sometimes we're going to see teams get burned on this. Right now, teams, we saw Drew Brees had a great career. Russell Wilson panned out. So people are talking themselves into Bryce Young being fine at his size. If Bryce Young has a good career, they're going to say, oh, that's great. Look, smaller quarterbacks can make it. If he fails, you're going to see teams go, you know what? We do want that guy to be 6 foot. We do want that guy to be 215 pounds. We're not going to take the chance. So people are willing to take chances right now more so than ever. And Cansey will benefit from that. He's got a good shot to be a first-round pick because we know that quarterbacks, the thing they hate more than anything is pressure up the middle.
Yeah.
And that guy is pressure up the middle. He's not just an undersized athletic defensive tackle, because history is filled with those guys. He's skilled. He knows how to get off blocks. He knows how to shoot gaps. His lateral agility is through the roof. And this is a guy that just flies around blockers. And that's something it's not like, well, let me just take any defensive end and put him in there and he's going to do the same thing. It's not that way. There's a skill to it. And he's got that skill. So that makes him very valuable. So you're going to lose something in run defense, but you'll gain something in passing side of things. And as we know, the NFL is a passing league. So I think people are going to take a chance in him. The Eagles, I don't have a good feel for Sean Desai. He was a coordinator for 1 year in Chicago, and their defensive line was big. Akeem Hicks was one of their defensive ends at 325 pounds.
Yeah. Great player, by the way, when healthy.
A stud.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The other defensive end, I think, was like 305 pounds. But if you say to him, listen, would you trade that 305-pound defensive end for, and I say defensive end, the 4 eyes?
4 eye, yeah.
And we say, all right, what if we put Kalijah Cansey, who could get to the quarterback? He might say, forget the 305-pound guy. All he could do was play the run. Give me the guy who can affect the quarterback, because that's going to win me games. And yeah, we're going to give up some running yards here and there, but I'll tell you, Cansey will battle double teams. He will battle blockers. He's not going to win those battles consistently, but it's not like he's a guy that is shy about fighting to hold his ground and do his part in the run game.
Let me stick with the undersized theme. We're now down to if the Eagles center is going to tell them whether he is or isn't going to play, you would think that they'd like to know before free agency starts, when Isaac Seumalo becomes a free agent, if they're going to have Jason Kelce. Well, then can they slide Juergens over and have him play tackle? If not, do they have to put a bigger push on to get Isaac back if you're using Juergens to replace Kelce because he's walking away? The first scenario I gave, the former. Juergens is a player. We all believe he's a player. The Eagles liked him. He filled in just intermittently this year, but everybody's talking him up and how he looked. And at Stoutland University, players show the ability to move around and get things done. All the credit to Jeff Stoutland, but he's undersized for a guard. Talented player, but if you move him to guard and you got an undersized Kelce on probably his last year, will we be saying that for the next 4 years?
Yeah, we keep saying that.
Yeah, and it just keeps rolling over and rolling over and rolling.
By the way, wouldn't it be funny if we always talk about the Eagles took Landon Dickerson to be the heir apparent to Jason Kelce? Well, now he's one of the best left guards in football. They took Cam Juergens to be the heir apparent to Jason Kelce. What if he turns into one of the best right guards in football? Wouldn't surprise me, but sorry. Go ahead, Jody. Finish your thought.
The difference between Dickerson and Juergens is probably about 3 inches and 25 pounds.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Landon's big. Yeah.
He's a big dude. I know. I interviewed him in the WIP trailer this past preseason. We just accept that Juergens is going to be good because A, the Eagles say so, and B, he's under the tutelage of Jeff Stoutland, so he has to be good because nobody comes out of Stoutland University not able to play the position you need him to play. Should we be worried about him being undersized if the Eagles move him to tackle?
I'm not too worried about his size. There are guards that play in the 300, 305-pound range and do a good job. You don't need to be huge these days. What you need to do is have a skill set that matches your size. And he's an athletic guy. We saw last year in the preseason, it looked like Jason Kelce was out there running around blocking in space, blocking on the move. So he's good at that. He's not a massive guy who's going to line up across from a defensive tackle and go just drive him off the ball the way that Landon Dickerson can. Now, he'll play with better leverage than Dickerson. He'll get under their pads, and he can win that way. He's not going to get the same movement, but he can still win those battles. And you look at Zach Martin for Dallas, best right guard in football, and he's a 310, 315-pound player. You don't have to be 325, 330 pounds to be a good guard in this league. You just have to have the right skill set, and I think Juergens has the right skill set for his size.
We are talking. Let's go down that route, Tommy, because we're talking about this year's draft. Let's go back to last year's draft because no team in football, understandably so, because the Eagles had the deepest, most well-rounded roster in football. No team got fewer snaps from their rookies than the Eagles, meaningful snaps, and now they got to count on those guys. So it's not just Cam Juergens, who's going to be a starter somewhere, whether it's center, right guard, at least penciled in. Jordan Davis got to step up, got to play more. Not going to get Javon Hargrave and Fletcher Cox back, it looks like. Nakobe Dean, you might get TJ back, you might get Kaiser back, but you're not going to get both of them back. He's got to step in. Even want to rewind a year to Milton Williams. He's got to step up. Are you confident in these players and their abilities?
For the most part. And Milton Williams played his best football the last 6 to 8 weeks of the year last year. So if you say, okay, let's pencil him in where Javon Hargrave plays, if Hargrave walks in free agency, I'm comfortable with that. Now, is he going to be an 11 sack guy all of a sudden? No guarantees on that. Javon Hargrave had one of the better seasons by a defensive tackle in a few years. You can't count on that level of production. Nakobe Dean at weak side linebacker, I'm looking forward to that. He showed real playmaking ability when he got on the field. So
another undersized guy to our previous team too.
Right.
Getting more. Yeah.
Although he's about the same size as Kaiser White, who had that role, and Kaiser had a solid year. So Nakobe, I'm interested to see him play. Juergens, I think we saw enough from him last year during the preseason to know that he's going to be a solid player. We'll see how good. Really, Jordan Davis is the biggest mystery in my mind of that group. And because we saw flashes from him, but, and he's the guy who kind of played the most out of them. But we also saw times where he didn't flash and he just kind of looked out like he was out there. And, you expect.
Hey, Tommy, real quick, you know who played the most? Reed Blankenship.
Oh, yeah.
That's the guy.
Go. Right. And he proved to be a crucial player.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jordan Davis, defensive tackle is a tough position. If you go back and you look, Fletcher Cox didn't have a particularly good rookie year. You go back to the old days and look, Broderick Bunkley didn't do a ton as a rookie. The old days, like Corey Simon might be the last defensive tackle that came in and just flourished. And Jim Johnson had him in a one-gap system that let him just fly up the field, go disrupt things, and he did that very well. Most defensive tackles take a little while to figure out what they're doing because they're used to playing in college where they were bigger and stronger than guys around them. They get to the NFL and all of a sudden the guy across you, he's bigger and stronger than you, and he doesn't care about you. He's going to block your butt. And so they struggle with that. And as the defensive tackles adjust to the physicality of the league and they get good coaching and they learn how to use their bodies, their hands, they understand leverage, all that stuff, that you can see them start to blossom. We saw Fletcher Cox in year 2 started to make plays. And I think Jordan Davis will follow that same track. But listen, it's fair to say, we got to be careful with him because we just saw flashes as a rookie and flashes are, it's not as much as you wanted to see.
Didn't know we were going to get a Broderick Bunkley reference today. Yeah, that's why we have Tommy Otis to bring us back down memory lane a little bit. All right, I want to move off the field with the players and into the coaches' room. There's a turnover in Eagles coaching staff. We know about the defection of the 2 coordinators to go be head coaches. The replacements now in. One individual already under contract in consideration didn't get the gig, given his walking papers yesterday. Nick Sirianni liked to talk a lot this year about connection. He has since he was hired. That's a key element to his coaching technique is he connects with his players, and he expects himself and his other coaches to do the exact same thing. They've either got to restart the connection or you could say there's a bit of a disconnect because there's going to be new additions to the Eagles coaching staff. How much of a hurdle is this for Sirianni in his 3rd year?
It's a little bit of a hurdle, but I think the players we'll see Sean decide. He's a guy that has a great reputation from the people he's worked with. And that's the key thing. He's got to come in and be able to win the room over and make them comfortable with him. And from what you've heard about him his days going back to college and what he did at Temple, what he did with the Bears, Seattle was excited when they hired him last year. He seems like he is a very engaging guy that's able to really connect with people. And so I think that he'll be a good fit in that way. We'll see how good he is in terms of X's and O's. So there's going to be some challenges there. The players liked the old staff of Gannon and Denard Wilson and Nick Rallis. And now that, Rallis is gone, Wilson's gone, Gannon's gone, they're going to have to get used to the new staff. But the other part of this is the NFL is all about change. We know that. Players come and go, coaches come and go. So it isn't like you're disrupting a family. It isn't like you're getting a new dad, right? They understand that it's a business and these kind of things happen. So there'll be a little bit of a hurdle there. But if they have the right guys, I think they'll come through it just fine.
At Lawler NFL, follow Tommy on Twitter, Eagles Blitz, IGGLES, blitz.com. You can read him there. Did some great combine work. I'll leave you with the coaching staff as well, Tommy, the offensive side. I think a lot of people are sort of moving quickly past the fact that Shane Steichen was a pretty good play caller. And they say, well, it's the same offense, Brian Johnson, same talent. It's going to be the same. And I kind of look at the shift from Nick Sirianni to Shane Steichen. That should have shown people, all right, same offense. One guy was a better play caller. Let's be honest. Nick might be a better head coach. We'll see how Shane does in Indianapolis. But Shane was a better play caller. Are you confident that the Eagles will not miss a beat when it comes to the offensive play calling with Brian Johnson?
There will be differences. There's no question. You're going to have a different play caller. There may be some ways that he's better. There's going to be some ways he's worse. There's just no question when there's change, things are going to be a little bit different. The game plan is going to be put together, and you'll have Sirianni's hands all over that. You'll have Jeff Stoutland doing his part in that. So they'll all put the game plan together. And they talk during breaks during the game. Hey, what do we want to do in this upcoming series? So it isn't like Shane Steichen called plays in a vacuum. It's not like he was the only guy who had any idea what was getting called on a regular basis. But when they went to certain situations and they're going up tempo, he's calling those plays quickly. And that's when he was doing it by himself. And I remember the one play that sticks out to my mind. They ran a play against Dallas in the first game. I guess it was the second game, the Minshew game, where they faked something and brought Devontae across and hit him for a touchdown. And Nick Sirianni talked about Steichen calling that play and saving it for that moment. And that's one of those things where, as a play caller, if you've got a play that you're sure is going to get you a first down or a touchdown, do you do it when you're down 10 points in the second quarter? Do you wait for the third quarter? Do you wait for the fourth quarter? And in that game, I feel like they did it in the third or fourth quarter. And it was a crucial play and just a brilliant call. And that's where Steichen showed a special ability. Brian Johnson, we'll see. He might be able to do the same kind of thing. He might use that play earlier. He might save it and not use it and regret not using it. We'll have to see how he does. But there's going to be some change. And it'll be interesting, but I think there's enough smart people helping to build that game plan and collaborate on game day that I think the Eagles offense will still be one of the better units in the league.
Tommy, last one for me, and I'll readily admit it's a completely unfair question, so you're not going to be held completely accountable for it, but I'm just interested to see where your mindset is at. I just checked Twitter. I checked my source. Jalen Hurts has not signed a contract extension today, so you chalk off another day off the calendar that they haven't gotten it done. When should Eagle fans start to actually get nervous? Is it before free agent? Is it after free agent? Is it in camp? Is it in season? Is it all the way up till next year? We know he's under contract and he's going to play on the last year of his rookie deal, but they need to get something done at some point. Calendar watch. When do you go, Houston, because remember that's where Jalen's from, we have a problem?
To me, it would be August because that's when you get into training camp. And, at that point, a lot of times players will tell you, we're going to finalize negotiations now because I don't want this affecting my play during the preseason or the regular season. So the Eagles, listen, they'd love to sign him first because they don't want Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, all these guys getting contracts, and then Hurts tries to top them. So they want to sign him sooner. But it's such a complicated process because he's going to get a boatload of money. Yeah. And the Eagles are not in great cap shape right now. So they've got to structure that deal. And a part of it could be that they're waiting to see what happens with free agency. We know they would love to bring back a couple of their players. But if they all of a sudden are out on Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, Gardner Johnson, Miles Sanders, they may say, okay, that'll change the way we structure the contract a little bit. Versus if we are able to get something done with Javon Hargrave, okay, maybe then we need to structure the contract a little differently. So could be they're waiting to see what happens with free agency. But yeah, no, I'm confident they're going to get something done because Sirianni wants him. Howie Roseman wants him. Hurts wants to be here. His best friend, A.J. Brown, is here. they're willing to pay him money. The Eagles have always paid their quarterbacks very well. Donovan McNabb got a record-setting deal years ago. Carson Wentz got a record-setting deal. They will pony up for the quarterback position. We're not talking about linebacker here. That's quarterback. The Eagles will get that thing done.
Eagle fans like your optimism, Tommy. That's what they wanted to hear. Appreciate you jumping in with us. Gave us some great scouting stuff and some coaching stuff as well. You know, we'll be hitting you up as the offseason goes on. Thanks for jumping in today, and we'll talk again soon.
Always fun to talk to you guys.
Thanks.
EaglesBlitz.com. That's IGGLES Blitz.com. Tommy Lawler, a long time Eagles reporter here with us on Birds 365. All right, Jody Mack coming back. Want to continue the free agency talk and throw a couple names John's way. Guys that are Eagle free agents. Their contract is up. They were on the team this year. They weren't necessarily major contributors, but if the Eagles are going to be losing guys, maybe keeping a couple of their guys who didn't play much and asking them to do more is a possibility. We'll come back and continue to talk Eagles free agents here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Jeff D'Ambrosio doesn't need a special event to appreciate his customers. Jeff shows his appreciation to them every day of the year. Jeff makes sure to stock more new inventory than anyone and guarantees prices and payments that nobody can beat. There are so many reasons that thousands of customers know Jeff is the easy, friendly place to do business. More for their trades, no judgment zone for credit issues, the best, most reliable service department in the country. That's why I like Jeff, and I know you will too. Jeff will satisfy you every day. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Owner Appreciation Event.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Plan your day with confidence.
Keep the umbrellas on hand.
With Action News and AccuWeather.
Numerous tornadoes.
Your go-to team when severe weather strikes.
The water is still rising.
Keeping you prepared wherever you watch. Action News and AccuWeather, the team you trust.
Back guys here on Birds 365. McMullen and McDonald, hour down, hour to play. In hour number 2, we'll be joined by our pal Jeff Kerr from CBSSports.com, NFL writer and host on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel of Good Morning NFC. A little downtime for the show, but Jeff will be back and he'll be with us coming up in about 20 minutes. All right, J-Mac, I wanted to we know when we talk Eagle free agents, Javon Hargrave, Bradbury, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, both linebackers, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham. These are the names that people talk about for varying reasons. Their importance to the Eagles this past year, what they could be in the future, what they've done for the Eagles in the past. A lot of different reasons that those names come first. there are a couple of guys that have had whatever level of success with the Eagles, or maybe lack thereof, in one other guy's track record, that are free agents that I want to get your take on. You've been an Andre Dillard guy since the Eagles drafted him, and since we started Birds 365 together. And I remember you telling me they're giving Andre every chance to start. Jordan Mailata is Andre Dillard's backup. And then he went by him like he was standing still, but they did. The Eagles gave him the starting reps, which means they, and Jeff Stoutland's a big voice in that room, had some confidence in Andre Dillard and liked things about Andre Dillard to give him that shot. Didn't pan out because Mailata became as good as he did. He's been the backup at a couple of different positions. We know left tackle is his best position, most natural position. Some people believe he's just going to step in and be a starting left tackle somewhere in the NFL this year. Any buzz on Andre Dillard? He's become the forgotten man because the Eagles have so many other priority free agents they have to deal with and talk about and think about. What's going to happen with Andre Dillard come next week?
Yeah, he's an interesting one. He's going. The only question is, what is the contract going to be? I think teams have gotten smarter. And because of what happened here, you don't have to pay him a ton of money, you would think. And this could be good value for, there's a lot of offensive line deficient teams in this league. We talk about it all the time. Yeah, I'm in that category. He's going to be a starting left tackle. Now, the beauty of that from whatever team pegs him is you don't have to pay him like a starting left tackle, at least right now, at least until he proves himself. So I think he's one of the more interesting names in the entire league on the open market, because I think from his perspective, he should want to sign a 1-year deal.
I was going to say, is he going to do a prove it deal?
I would do it. If I were Andre Dillard, I'd sign for 1 year, $7 million maybe, and say, all right. And then if he starts and plays at a high level, he's right back on the market making big money. I mean, that's, I think the advice his agent's going to give him is to sign the prove it deal. And, you know, wouldn't surprise me if it's 5 million, wouldn't surprise me if it's 7 million, wouldn't surprise me if it's 10 million, because there's so many desperate teams. But he's one of the more interesting names in the entire league on the market. And he's not going to be back here, and he's going to get an opportunity to start somewhere. It'll be interesting how desperate teams are. And teams have gotten smarter, but there's also still some dumb teams. There's also, starting with the team with the number 1 pick in the draft. You know, I don't like, it's a short sample size, but I don't like what Ryan Poles has done in Chicago even a little bit. And now he's in a position where, you know, they got to make a decision on the quarterback. It looks like they've made their decision. They're going to go forward with Justin Fields. And if you knew that, maybe you should have built around him to begin with. You knucklehead.
Yeah, but they didn't. And you know how big a Fields fan I am. They didn't have the information they have now. Fields had a really eye-opening type season, even though the team lost as many games as they did. It wasn't Fields' fault that they lost those games. He needed to kind of go out and prove it to them. They were new to the Bears, so if it took them a little longer to come to grips with the fact.
Well, my question to you would be, and it's not, what did he prove to them? Because he didn't get an opportunity to prove anything other than he was a phenomenal athlete and he made something out of nothing all the time. But everybody already knew that. I think as far as quarterback play, as far as process.
John, you knew he was going to rush for 1,100 yards before the season started?
No, of course not 1,100.
Okay.
But I knew
we didn't really know, did we?
I knew he was a great athlete. I knew that. I wasn't worried about his rushing, whether that number was 700 or 1,100. I wasn't worried about that. I still know nothing about him as a passer. In fact, when I was in Chicago, and I'm going down a wormhole, I was not impressed because the processing time was so slow. Ball wasn't coming out of his hand. I was not impressed even a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I'm never going to predict any quarterback's going to rush for 1,100, but I knew he was a great runner. I mean, that didn't move the stick for me, the measuring stick for me is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that Bears Chicago game this year, and it's the one that Jalen, of course, got hurt in, and Jalen wasn't great either. It was the cold, about as cold as humanly possible guy should be asked to play in. I'm not going to make that my measuring stick of what kind of passer that Justin
Well,
Fields
yeah,
is.
but that has nothing to do with processing. That has nothing to do with getting the football out on time, that kind of stuff. Everybody has bad games, but I mean, I joked, with our buddy Mike Kay, my buddy, who we got to get back on the show at some point. I mean, you could judge that guy's decision making with a sundial. I mean, it was just ridiculous, and that's what I'm saying with Ryan Poles. What the hell changed? Either build around the guy or don't. And I've advocated that they should trade Justin and draft whoever they like in this year's draft. They're going to go in a different direction. But boy, I don't.
Which quarterback do you think is going to be better than Justin Fields, who's in this year's draft?
I would rather have Bryce with the size deficiencies and all. And I think CJ is going to be better as well. I think those top two are going to be better. But it's not a criticism of Justin Fields. It's a criticism of Ryan.
Exactly
Poles.
what it is. You can say it's not, but that's what you're doing. If you're
No,
saying
because
that
they didn't help the
guys in the
kid.
draft that you think are going to be better than him.
Well, that's not. I mean, so what? You might have the first pick and the second pick. I mean, they should be good. That does. I think I think they have a better chance. And part of the problem is they didn't help the kid. So now he's got a bunch
part of the problem.
But now he's got a bunch of bad habits. Now he's doing all this stuff, and he's not getting the football out of his hands, and he's trying to make something out of nothing, and he's got a bunch of bad habits. That's what I'm saying. I don't like Ryan Poles, is what I'm saying. You're taking it as I don't like Justin Fields.
Pretty much, you keep saying he's got a bunch of bad habits. Did you really break down the film on Justin Fields' games week in and week out in the NFL this year?
Not every game, but I saw him play enough, and he's got a bunch of bad habits. That's not exactly controversial, Jody. He's got a bunch of bad habits. Look at anybody in their description of Justin Fields. He's very slow when it comes to processing and decision making. These are not controversial statements. I do not like what the Chicago Bears are doing, and I don't like what they've done to Justin Fields, and I don't like the GM, and it's a small sample size. But that was my larger point, and you're going down the Fields route. Focus on Poles. I think Poles is awful. That was my question of when I started this tangent. There's a lot of teams are getting smarter in the NFL, but there's still a lot of dumb teams. Not a lot. There's still a few dumb teams, and that's why I brought up Chicago.
And I think Brian Poles had a bad year. His first year out of the block wasn't great, and I thought they left Justin Fields with no weapons whatsoever on the outside, and really not much in the running game either, other than himself. So you're right. If you're evaluating year one of Ryan Poles, that's an F. But I'm going to give him year two, and they did kind of get lucky to back into the first overall pick. Lovie Smith goes and wins a game that gives them a chance to be in the catbird seat. Well, let's see what Ryan Poles does with that pick. Let's see how he can spin it off and get extra draft picks and plug guys in that they can be better. It sounds to me like you're writing off Ryan Poles. I'm not there yet. I'll agree with you if you go, what kind of year did he have his first year as the GM? F. That's an F. But I'm not firing him, so I'm going to give him this year because he does have not only the number one pick in the draft that he can turn into whatever bounty he can get his hands on. They also have, I think, the most cap flexibility in the entire league, if they're not the one of the top two or three. So we'll see what Ryan Poles does this offseason. I'm going to give him another chance to prove that he's not an F general manager. All right, one other Eagle free agent I did want to ask you about is the backup quarterback. You talked about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson having a big personality, which is dead on accurate. Supposedly Gardner Minshew's got a big personality too, but if you're the backup quarterback to Jalen Hurts, I give Gardner this much credit. Be quiet and just go sit in the corner. And his 2 games he played this year, he did not get the job done. Most people think that the Eagles are going in another direction as a backup quarterback. Any chance Gardner Minshew's back here again?
Yeah, I think there's a small percentage. Again, I would say, less than 20%. One, Gardner fancies himself as a starting quarterback in this league. I don't think anybody is going to sign Gardner Minshew and try to sell to their fan base, this is our guy. I give him credit for having confidence in himself. This is the guy who said he didn't take dumps in the Jacksonville facility because he doesn't believe in number 2.
Not number 2, right?
I give him credit for confidence in himself, but I just don't think it's out there to where he's going to get that kind of opportunity. But where I do think he's going to get an opportunity is to go somewhere in a situation where he's got an opportunity to play because the starter is not as entrenched. Jalen's playing here if he's healthy. He tried it once. He walked into the office. Hey, I played well against the Jets. Can I be the starter? And Nick said, oh, settle down a little bit, Carter. He knows he's not going to be the starter here. So I do think somebody's going to sign him, to a $5 million deal to be a backup to a quarterback that isn't great. And he'll see that as an opportunity. If this guy gets benched, I'll have an opportunity to go in there and play. So I think it's unlikely. But the Eagles need a backup quarterback. I don't think they believe in Ian Book yet. So we talked about it with Tommy at, day 3 rookie. You're going to count on that guy as a backup quarterback. And look, Jalen's been a starter for 2 years, and you've needed the backup to play both years for a couple games. So the Eagles know how valuable that position is. You're going to go out on the free agent market and sign Jacoby Brissett. He might cost you more than Gardner Minshew. So there's a chance, but not a good chance.
All right. I'm ready to wish Gardner good luck in whatever venture he jumps into next year. And I think the way you describe it could very well be accurate. I do not believe he's going to be back here. I think the Eagles will go in another direction because he had his chance. I know he won that game against the Jets. I was there for that game, sat in the stands as a fan and watched last year the Jets. 2 years ago, the Jets defense was brutal. So he did a couple of good things. Yeah, everybody did good things against the Jet defense. If he had done that against the Jet defense this year, I would have been more impressed. Gardner.
Sauce would have got him this year.
Yeah. Mark that one down. All right. 2 other guys I want to ask you about. It's kind of a daily double. In season, Howie Roseman, when Jordan Davis went down and the first week the Eagles were run against pretty badly and it looked bad on film and the team racked up a bunch of yards with Davis being out of there, Howie reacted and he reached out and got a couple of veteran defensive tackles who were on the street in season, just waiting for the right opportunity. And surprisingly, Linval Joseph gets signed. And shortly thereafter, and Ndamukong Suh gets out. I thought when they got Joseph, all right, he got his guy. No, he doubled down and went and got another one. And both of those guys were part of the rotation. Joseph more in the Davis role as the big man in the middle. Either one of these guys think about coming back?
No, not in the conventional way. The exact same way that it happened this year. If they want to continue to play, both of these players have made so much money over their NFL careers. They're not going to sit and sign with anybody for 1 year in the veteran minimum. They're not going to do it. They might do if they want to continue to play, they might do what they did this year and say, all right, let me ring shop. Let me wait until November and say who's good. And I'll come in for the prorated, try to get a ring. But no, I can't see either of those guys at the start of free agency saying, I got to get a deal done. I got to get it done. I mean, they've made so much money in their careers. They can do what they did this year. They can do the exact same thing. So if, the Saints just got Derek Carr, if they take off and, maybe they go play for the Saints in November, same thing, ring shopping. I think that's going to be a new market in the NFL. I really do, with veteran players.
Guys that sit till October, somewhere thereabouts, and then, but see, and it happened last year. There's no getting around the fact that both of the guys signed here with the Eagles, and the Eagles made it to the Super Bowl and were tied with 10 seconds to go in the game. So they came damn close to achieving their goal of ring shopping. It was a little luck involved that that guy just happened to get hurt. He was doing the job and keeping the Eagles as one of the better defenses against the run. And just kind of like the waters parting, it was perfect for them. You bank on that going into an off season, that perfect situation might not unfold in front of your very eyes like it did this past year.
Well,
guys like Sue and Linval Joseph taking a chance if they do it that way.
Well, yeah, but I don't think they care. In other words, I think they're at the stage of their career where they're not going to play 17 games for, $4 million, throw a number out there. They're just not going to do that. So if it doesn't come up, they'll say, all right, I'm not going to play.
If you remember, and shame on me, I should know. So if you can fill in the blank for me, John, I'd appreciate it. What they play for this past year? Was it prorated, or did they get more than that because of their names and the value? They didn't play all the games.
Yeah, they did get more than the
prorated minimum.
Yeah, they got more than that. I can look it up. I'll try to look it up as we're talking. Yeah, they did get more than that, but everything's prorated at that point. So Linval signed for 1 year, 200,000, 250,000 signing bonus, 125 per playoff win. So he got some extra money there.
Oh, good. That's always a good move. If you can get that put in and then your team helps you out and achieves it, that's a nice added dollar figure to your seasonal earnings.
So, yeah. And those guys aren't going to, they might ring shop again, but if not, they'll just walk off into the sunset.
All right, because they both did contribute, and just interested to see if you thought that they would put an entire year of football in. If you say no, I can't argue with you because you're right. They both made a lot of money off their career. That is not the main factor in their decision, or at least we don't think so. All right, he is John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. That makes us Mac and Mac here on Birds 365. Joining us next is Jeff Kerr, our bud from CBSSports.com and the host of Good Morning NFC East here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. We haven't talked to JK in a couple of weeks. Looking forward to stoking the conversation again with Jeff Kerr next here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Jeff D'Ambrosio doesn't need a special event to appreciate his customers. Jeff shows his appreciation to them every day of the year. Jeff makes sure to stock more new inventory than anyone and guarantees prices and payments that nobody can beat. There are so many reasons that thousands of customers know Jeff is the easy, friendly place to do business. More for their trades, no judgment zone for credit issues, the best, most reliable service department in the country. That's why I like Jeff, and I know you will too. Jeff will satisfy you every day. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Owner Appreciation Event.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Plan your day with confidence.
Keep the umbrellas on hand.
With Action News and AccuWeather.
Numerous tornadoes.
Your go-to team when severe weather strikes.
The water is still rising.
Keeping you prepared wherever you watch. Action News and AccuWeather, the team you trust.
Mac guys here with you on Birds 365, McMullen, McDonald, and we get a third JAKIB family member involved in today's conversation. Always good to catch up with Jeff Curry here with us on the Birds 365. All right, JK, since you are Mr. NFC East, I'm going there first. The Washington Commanders used the franchise tag on Darren Payne. The Dallas Cowboys used it on Tony Pollard. We got two NFC East teams left. We assume the Giants are going to use it today on either their quarterback and or their running back. And I'm clinging to the possibility that maybe Chauncey Gardner-Johnson gets the franchise tag from the Eagles. We got two already registered in. How many franchise tags are going to be given out in the NFC East?
I'll say 3 or 4. I still don't think the Eagles are going to use it because teams that know how to manage the salary cap just don't use the franchise tag. And I know the Eagles have a lot of guys that are free agents. I mean, really, if I wanted to use the franchise tag for anybody, I know CJ Gardner-Johnson would be the one, but truthfully, I'd use it on Javon Hargrave, if I'm being quite honest with you, because I think he's the player that they can't afford to lose. Now, that's way too much money, though. That's the thing. Howie Roseman's a lot smarter than me in that regard. But if you had to just pick a player, I think Javon Hargrave would be the guy. But I just don't see them using it. I think they're going to try to negotiate long-term deals with the free agents they want, and they'll do it.
With Javon, because we have a shift in obviously a defensive coordinator, we think we still are going to see the same sort of philosophy in the Fangio philosophy, Jeff. Is Javon Hargrave as good as the season he had? Do you want to pay him $18 to $20 million in that philosophy? I mean, he's a 3 technique. They don't play enough 3 technique. He's not a good run stopper. Is he a fit for this team, as strange as it sounds, coming off the year he had?
So it's weird because I thought he played in a way different style of defense when he was in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he did.
So I kind of liked how he transitioned over to Philly because when they signed Hargrave in 2020, I'm like, oh, that's interesting because he mostly played nose tackle. And then he comes over to Philly and he's learning a completely different system, played under 2 different coordinators in Jim Schwartz, in Jonathan Gannon, and seemed to do really well under Gannon the last 2 years. So I figure he'd be able to learn. I kind of like the stability, though, because if you don't bring Fletcher Cox back, you got Javon Hargrave working with the Jordan Davis, with the Milton Williams, a Marlon, I can never pronounce his last name. Tuipulotu. That's the one name I don't think I'll ever get right. I got Ha'Pau'alii Vaitai all these years. I don't think I'll ever get that one. But besides the point there,
there's another one coming, his brother. So you got to get Tuipulotu.
Yeah, he was at the combine. I'm like, I still don't know how to pronounce it. It's just one of those names. Anyway, I just like the fact with a guy that, well, Javon Hargrave now. He's turning 30, right?
Yeah, he's going to be 30.
Yeah. I mean, it all depends how long you pay him. If it's 3 years, $60 million, I think I can live with that, but that's just. I agree with you though, John. $18 to $20 million is a big commitment, especially when you have a lot of other needs on this roster.
We got to 4 o'clock for the tags to officially be placed on the players. Which way do you think the Giants are going to go? Or you said 3 out of 4, so I'm assuming you mean they're going to do one, either Daniel Jones or Saquon Barkley. There are reasons to lean in both the two directions. Saquon's cheaper. The running backs are just cheaper than quarterbacks, but the quarterbacks are more important position. And in the way the salaries are escalating, a franchise tag, non-exclusive franchise tag, is not that outrageous and is like $13 million less per season than Daniel Jones has been quoted to be asking for. They're going to slap it on the quarterback or the running back in New York.
So when I did franchise tag candidates for every team, when I did the Giants, I used Saquon because I thought $10 million, not a bad rate for Saquon. He's still amongst the top 5 paid at his position. And I think for 1 year, you can kind of do another wait and see and try to get at least a sort of short/long-term deal done with Jones at 2-3 years. But franchise tagging Jones doesn't seem to be too bad considering he's searching for the moon and the stars here with $45 million a year. So maybe you franchise tag him, just say, hey, you're playing under this. We want to see you play another year, and we'll try to get a deal done with Saquon. It just seems like Saquon right now is easier to get a deal done with than Daniel Jones, as crazy as it sounds.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, the franchise tag for running back is not bad, which is why you see Josh Jacobs getting it, Tony Pollard getting it. Maybe the Giants get something done with Daniel Jones and they can franchise Saquon Barkley. That would open up the market for Miles Sanders. I don't know if the market's going to be there for Miles if some of those guys hit it. Luckily for him, it's not. I don't think he's going to come back, but I want to talk to you about that position with the Eagles from a philosophical standpoint. A lot of people talk about Bijan Robinson. We talked about it earlier. Derrick Henry's on the trade market. Eagles fans and big names, Jeff Kerr. Oh, get me Derrick Henry. Did the Eagles need a big-time running back with Jalen Hurts? Do you're kind of +1 means +1. If you're just going to turn and hand the ball off, you're taking away that +1. Are they more effective with a Kenny Gainwell than going out and getting a big name running back?
What about the kid from Alabama? I'd take him, Jahmyr Gibbs. I think I would take him if he's around in the second round. I think that'd be worth the investment. But I don't think they need a big-time running back, but they'll run the offense. I mean, if you look at what Boston Scott, Kenny Gainwell did, maybe add a Jeff Wilson in there to the mix, and then you could draft somebody, and you kind of have a running back by committee. But you're right, John. When you have Jalen Hurts, I think that kind of cancels everything out. Now, if the Eagles could get Miles Sanders back for, say, $5 million a year, I'd be all for it. But I don't think that's going to be his market because I think Spot Track has him at like $7.5, $8 million, something like that, which I think is fair value for Miles Sanders. I just don't see the Eagles paying it. But to answer your initial question, I don't think they need to just break the bank for a running back. And I don't know if I really want Derrick Henry right now, to be honest with you. It just doesn't seem like the Eagles' philosophy.
No. Why would you want just a power running back? Which you're taking away the strength of the running game. I don't get it.
Yeah, you'd be changing it. I give Derrick Henry his credit, but
great. I'm not
diminishing Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I'm not dismissing. It's just not a fit in an RPO offense. It's just not a fit.
Very much agree. All right, Jeff, I need your take on the Eagles coaching staff. There's been changes. Some of the Eagles couldn't control. Guys getting head coaching jobs, more power to them. So you got to replace them, elevate, bring in guys from the outside. What happened with Denard Wilson is causing some consternation. He doesn't get the defense coordinator gig. It's reported that he was okay with staying as the defensive backs coach. And then it came out that he and the organization were parting ways, depending on who you read and who you believe. It was all Eagles' decision, not a mutual parting of ways. This is probably mostly on Nick Sirianni. Again, he hadn't come out and confirmed and said, "Jeff, this was my call. I decided to move on. I did it for myself, the team, Denard, everybody. It's all on me." Did Sirianni handle this well?
You know what? It doesn't it feel like Jonathan Gannon and Denard Wilson are kind of being pinned as scapegoats for the Super Bowl right now? It's almost like, okay, you gave us the number 2 pass defense, but what did you do?
Number
Yeah,
one.
number 1. Thank you. Thank you for correcting me on that, McMullen.
Yeah.
And it just seems like, okay, they held the Chiefs to yards.
182.
Yeah, 182 in the Super Bowl, but they couldn't get off the field. And maybe they just did not like that philosophy, or maybe it didn't mess with Sean Desai. It's what if Marcus's article said what they basically fired Denard Wilson? Was that the story?
By the way, the Eagles, I did text some people. They are sticking with their story as of now. And it was mutual. So it's going to be interesting because at some point Nick's going to have to answer the question.
Well, John, you were at the combine, right? Didn't Sirianni kind of have like some weird body language when it came to being asked about Denard Wilson and whether he was going to stay?
Well, I wasn't there. We took the week off, but he did. It was pretty clear to me. I did watch the press conference. It was pretty clear to me he wasn't coming back. I mean, he gave all the usual great coach, great person, but a lot of uncertainty. Don't know if it's a fit. Don't know if Sean has his own guy that he wants to bring in. So it was pretty evident he wasn't going to be back. I guess the bigger point is Jody brought up, was he fired? Did Denard agree, as Marcus sort of reported that, hey, I want to be back. I'm not going to create waves. And it doesn't, the part that doesn't mesh with me and I can't get my head around is, it doesn't seem like Nick Sirianni to say, oh, I don't believe you, I'm just going to fire you. But it could, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. Questions got to be answered at some point. Right now, it seems like a he said, from my perspective.
Yeah, that is what it is. There's like 2 sides every story, and then there's the side in the middle, and you just kind of have to draw your own conclusions from there. But yeah, it's just a weird conundrum now. And again, we've seen this happen with this franchise before. Doug Peterson wanting a little bit more power after getting the team.
Always happens. By the way, now Jeffrey and Howie have nothing to do. I constantly get fans, Jeff, who say, well, is Howie doing it or is Nick doing it? I mean, the Eagles overblow the collaboration standpoint. They trumpet that like it's ridiculous. But why is the assumption that only one person is doing this? Only one person is involved. I mean, Nick Sirianni, basically what happens is Howie and his departments are responsible for getting candidates. And then the head coach interviews them and says, I want this guy. There's nothing wrong with that philosophy. The bad part is when the coach says, I want Mike Rowe.
Yeah.
And the owner says, you can't have Mike Rowe. That's where the problems come in. The Eagles aren't at that point with Nick Sirianni yet. He gets to pick the coaches, but a lot of them he doesn't know until he interviews them. I don't know why it's so difficult for people to understand.
And I like this. Brian Johnson, who we already know is a good coach, it also helps when Jalen Hurts can say, that's the guy I want. And I'm not saying he would take a hometown discount for getting Brian Johnson, but it's a lot easier for him to like the organization when his guys calling the plays.
And by the way, Brian's another guy who Nick didn't have a relationship with. So the Eagles brought Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni. Nick interviewed Brian Johnson and, hired him. Now that was as a position coach. Now, as he was a position coach and got elevated, I think a lot of that had to do with his relationship with Jalen Hurts. And that could be a good thing. That could be a bad thing, because that's how Press Taylor got elevated, because of his relationship with Carson Wentz. It didn't work out in that aspect. Carson didn't necessarily like the tough teachings of John DiFilippo, but it was good for him. And the more, hey, you're great, didn't work. I'm not saying Brian's going to be that way. I'm just saying the assumption that, oh, he's known him since he was 4 years old. All right. Shane didn't know him, but Shane was pretty successful, even though he didn't know him at 4 years old.
True, but we do have a history where there is consternation between the coach picking his staff, elevating staff, moving guys on and off his staff, and the powers that be above him as the owner to say, no, that can't happen. You're right. We're not there yet with Sirianni, but this could be the first time there was a little bit of a disagreement. If Nick was the one who said, yeah, I got guys on this defense that love the coach, and then we could have a split if Sean isn't right off the bat having success. Do I want those rumblings in the locker room? I do believe this was a Sirianni decision. All right. I asked this of our guest earlier, so I'm going to ask it of you too, Mr. Carr. Completely unfair question. What's the time frame of worry for Jalen Hurts' contract? When does an Eagle fan say, why the hell haven't we gotten this done yet? Is it next week, next month, before the draft, after the draft, into camp? When do you say, we've been talking about this for friggin' months now, when are they going to get something done? They got an issue here. They're not seeing on the same page, Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. What the hell's happening? When do you go officially into worry mode on the Jalen Hurts not done contract?
It wouldn't be worry mode, but when Joe Burrow gets his contract, when Lamar Jackson gets his contract, which is coming soon, by the way, when Justin Herbert gets his contract, when all these guys are getting paid upwards of $50 million, then you're like, okay, Jalen's done as much or as more than these guys already. So what's his salary? $55 million a year? Is it $60 million a year? I know people think that's crazy right now, but you got Daniel freaking Jones, $45 million a year. That might happen. So it's crazy to think. I mean, wait till Lamar gets the non-exclusive tag later today, and some team just goes, you know what? We'll give you what you're worth. Baltimore may not think you're worth this, but we'll give you, and we'll see if Baltimore caves or not. And then you're just going to see Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert licking their chops, and Jalen's going to be licking his chops.
What helps the Eagles there, Jeff, is Joe Burrow plays for Cincinnati and Justin Herbert plays for the Chargers. So I do think, like, Howie wants to get it done before those guys, no question. He can drag his feet a little bit because those teams drag their feet consistently. If there were another team that is going to get it done, he might have more of a sense of urgency. That's kind of the feeling I get.
I just can't believe how much Baltimore's dragged their feet with Lamar.
I don't think they have. I just think Lamar's in the I want Deshaun Watson. I want fully guaranteed.
Which is asinine guaranteed. If you think about it, because who gives a guy $230 million guaranteed?
The Browns, that's what Lamar is asking for.
That's what Lamar is asking for. So I can't, Baltimore, I think, would have gotten a deal done, but they're not giving him a fully guaranteed deal. That, to me, is the sticking point. And I can't argue Baltimore's standpoint. Cleveland, that's why everybody hates Cleveland in the league. I mean, they hate that contract. They hate it.
And it's a precedent.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Jeff. You mentioned it earlier. Lamar going to get the non-exclusive franchise tag probably today, 30 and change, not anywhere near what he's worth. He's not going to be happy about it. He goes out and sells himself to someone in the NFL. Is there another team that will go, yeah, we'll do what the Browns did. We'll guarantee every dollar. It should be in the market of the Kyler Murray contract, $230 for $5 million. He got about 70% guaranteed. Yeah, you're better than that. You got an MVP, Lamar. We'll give you it all guaranteed. Basically the same contract with Deshaun Watson. Any team in the league going to do that?
There might be a team in New York that you like, Jody, that could be desperate enough now that they struck out on Derek Carr, and there's no guarantee Aaron Rodgers. We don't know what he's going to do. So the Jets might say, you know what? We'll talk to you. We'll get you interested in us, and we'll give you what you need because we feel like we're on the precipice of doing something great. And if Lamar wants to stay in the AFC, awesome. But there are a lot of teams that need quarterbacks, and I think there are teams that got the money that can pay Lamar.
Yeah. And that's always an ownership thing, Jody, because I guarantee you, we were talking about Andrew Berry before. I guarantee you Andrew Berry isn't giving Deshaun Watson that contract. That's where the owner steps in and says, we got to do this. And That's the only guy making that type of decision.
Although I may be a fan, my faith in Woody Johnson, not real great. So I'm not sure that happens with the Jets, which will make it interesting how long this plays out, how much he will negotiate with other teams if he gets the tag that we expect him to get this afternoon. All right. You had your eyes on the combine all weekend as well. What jumped off the page for you player-wise, position-wise, filling potential needs, voids for the Eagles? No, we got to go through free agency first before we get to the draft, but were there some guys that you thought, that guy would look good in Eagle Green come Sunday afternoons in the fall?
So the irony was the only day I really had to focus on the combine was Sunday, which was ironically the running backs, kind of a position the Eagles needed. I'm like in the Dan Campbell camp. I'm not crazy about watching guys in pajamas, but I liked him when he played at Illinois, Chase Brown, and I thought he had a pretty strong combine. I like Chase Brown a lot. I thought he'd be a nice kind of mid-round pick if the Eagles were to go that route. But the Eagles don't have a 4th, 5th, or 6th right now, so that kind of cancels everything out. I did like Jahmyr Gibbs. I thought he had a good combine. Bijan Robinson again. McMullen, you would know this. What is Bijan Robinson backup at Texas's name?
Rochelle Johnson, I think.
Yeah, Rochelle Johnson. Yeah, I thought he was good last year when I watched him. I'm like, okay, that ain't Bijan Robinson. That guy ain't bad either. So
yeah, he is good. He is good.
There is a guy I kind of
Roshan, by the way. It's Roshan.
Is it
Johnson.
Roshan? Okay.
Yeah.
There's a guy that I really like at 10. I think he's going to get picked a little later than 10. So the Eagles would probably have to trade back. I'm still a big Paris Johnson fan from Ohio State. I love his game. I know he's an offensive tackle, but Lane Johnson ain't going to be around forever, and the Eagles always think ahead of this.
Oh, they do, man.
And it's not a sexy pick, but, man, you can plug him in right away at right tackle if you needed to.
Offensive line, defensive line.
Yeah, they got a guy right tackle who's okay. Yeah, that Lane Johnson guy's okay. I hear what you're saying. That's the Eagles' modus operandi. Trenches, trenches, trenches. Yeah, I don't think they're taking an offensive lineman with the 10th pick. Maybe that's wishful thinking on my part because I'm hoping he falls down at 13 to the Jets because that's what I want to see them take. They need to put more attention and pick winners on the offensive line. All right, this Eagle coaching staff with the major changes and the like, Sirianni talking about, he can, since the day he was hired, talked about connection. Is there any fissures in the coaching room this year with the changes they've been forced to make? Hey, they couldn't control it, but and to how Sirianni has handled it, will there be a disconnect between he and his coaching staff this year, even though it seems like he's getting to decide exactly who he wants?
I don't think so. I think the whole Nick Sirianni, Brian Johnson relationship is pretty good. I mean, they've been together for 2 years. And again, if the quarterback's happy with it, why not? Now, Alex Tanney's being promoted. I think that's another good promotion for them as well. I know not having Shane Steichen there is going to hurt this team a little bit, but I like Johnson's potential. I'm excited to see what he does as a play caller. And it looks like on the defensive side of the ball, it's Sean Desai is running the show. It's like, okay, we got this guy in. You pick who you want to pick. I'm curious to see what happens if Matt Patricia actually does become a member of the Eagles coaching staff.
Yeah, what do you think of that?
Boy, that doesn't make sense at all to me.
It doesn't. And there's a certain guy on this franchise that it's not. And everybody says this is a slay thing. I'm like, well, yeah, true, but Diggs don't like him either in Seattle. So
no.
It's more than Darius Slay here.
I go back. You know what I was thinking about, Jeff? Remember when Jim Schwartz was trying to compliment DK Metcalf, and DK took it the opposite way?
Yeah.
He said, you're the closest thing
to
I've
Randy
ever
Moss,
seen to
wasn't
Calvin
it?
Johnson.
Oh, Calvin Johnson. That's what it was.
And you're not there yet, but you're the closest thing, which is a compliment.
Yeah.
Calvin Johnson and DK is like probably doesn't know who Calvin Johnson is, to be honest. I think a lot of people don't realize that players don't, a lot of players don't have the same affinity for history that people that follow the game. He's like, what are you talking about? Why are you disrespecting me? I think maybe that's what happened with Slay and Patricia, but I don't know. because he was working out with Richard Sherman and somebody else. And Patricia said, "You're not there yet." But I think it was more of a Swartz thing. Like, you're really good, but you got to keep working to get to that level. And what's a compliment turns into a slight. I think that's maybe what happened. I think, but I wasn't there.
Here's the question I have for both you guys. We're talking about Matt Patricia coming in being the linebacker coach. If you can take away and pretend it didn't happen, his head coaching experience is going to be tough to do with Slay in the room. And his ineptitude at calling plays last year for the New England Patriots, and just put that to the side and just judge him as a defensive coach, most specifically a linebacker coach. Is he that good that the Eagles would rock the boat to bring him in? Do you look at Matt Patricia as that kind of a defensive coach? Either one of you guys?
Nick Foles put up 41 on them in the Super Bowl, so I don't think too much of Matt Patricia to begin with. And if you're going to tick off the one quarterback who is under contract right now, I don't think that's the best idea unless you're trying to find any excuse in the book to trade him and get rid of that contract and kind of move on from Darius Slay because he's 32. But I don't know why you would want to put your hand in the beehive right now. I don't know why you would want to do that.
Especially with the Denard Wilson stuff now coming out. Or, it's something to keep an eye on.
I will say this, though. Slay did say on, I think it was his podcast, I know he said about Desai that, he's willing to make him, as comfortable as he needs to be here as one of the leaders of the team. And, I like that, but man, Matt Patricia's there without Denard Wilson. I don't know. I think this came out before the whole Denard Wilson news was official too.
All right, at Jeff Kerr CBS, follow Jeff on Twitter. Last one from me, Jeff. I'm going to give you two. And I'm not going to put Jason Kelce in there because everybody's going to pick Jason Kelce, but that hinges on retirement. So 2 Eagles free agents are coming back. It could be Brandon Graham, CJ, Bradbury, TJ, Isaac, Fletcher, Miles, Javon. A lot of names.
Boston
you only
Scott?
get 2.
Keep
You
going.
only get 2. Now, Boston's not big enough. God bless him. But you only get 2 of those high-profile guys. Who are you bringing back?
I mean, if I'm playing with an uncapped salary cap here, it would obviously be James Bradbury and Javon Hargrave, but we are playing with salary cap. So I would love to see Javon Hargrave back. Man, this is tough. They can part ways with Sam Malo. They can part ways with Sanders. This is a tougher question because I probably would have said Kelce, to be honest. But
yeah,
but Javon Hargrave would be my no-brainer. You know what? How about Marcus Epps?
Marcus Epps. All right.
I mean,
value.
They kind of need. Yeah, they need some value. They can still draft a safety. I mean,
they got Reed Blankenship. Don't forget.
Yeah, and I'm hearing though Marcus Epps may have a nice little market coming up. So we'll see.
Write it down. Zach Pascal back with the Eagles. That one is going to happen.
Is he too big enough though? Because I was a Boston
he's
Scott.
Not big enough. He's not big enough. Zach's not big. Yeah, Zach might be back on a 1-year veteran minimum deal.
Listen to the coach talk about him. He'll tell you he's big enough. That'll be a key re-addition to the Eagles when they get Zach Pascal's name back on a contract.
I hope Zach's all right. He got robbed.
Yeah.
So,
I'll tell you what, though. I would like C.J. Gardner-Johnson back. I'm just not sure what his market is actually going to be. Maybe that's what.
Man. Neither am I.
McMullen said that earlier.
Yeah. I think people will think he's going to be the highest paid safety. No way. Personality's too big. He's out there throwing coaches under the bus. His agent's probably contacting him. Slow down. I think the Eagles, that might have helped the Eagles.
I really don't want putting the tag on him, and I don't think they need to put the tag on, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, we'll see if they get it done. If they don't, if he goes elsewhere, we'll find out at 4:00, as Johnny Mac says. Jeff Kerr, always a pleasure, buddy. Appreciate you jumping in. We'll get you back up in a couple of weeks when free agency gets underway.
Sounds great, Jerry. By the way, I just hope they don't tag a player like an LJ Smith just because the quarterback likes him.
Who would that be?
Well, you remember McNabb?
Going to bat for him?
Well, remember McNabb wanted them to tag LJ Smith because he liked him.
I get your point, but then you got to have somebody on the Eagles right now. Jalen Hurts is going to go and go, yeah, we got to keep this guy. Make it a priority. I know
Boston
you
Scott. Boston Scott.
is Zach, are you with me? Is it
Zach Pascal? Yeah.
Zach? Is it going to be that big?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. Jeff Kerr, always a pleasure. Thanks, bud.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks, guys.
JK here with us on Birds 365. Appreciate Mr. Kerr. All right, McMullen and McDonald coming back. You know what we got to do right here, right now. We're going to put a bow on the show.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Jeff D'Ambrosio doesn't need a special event to appreciate his customers. Jeff shows his appreciation to them every day of the year. Jeff makes sure to stock more new inventory than anyone and guarantees prices and payments that nobody can beat. There are so many reasons that thousands of customers know Jeff is the easy, friendly place to do business. More for their trades, no judgment zone for credit issues, the best, most reliable service department in the country. That's why I like Jeff, and I know you will too. Jeff will satisfy you every day. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Owner Appreciation Event.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Plan your day with confidence.
Keep the umbrellas on hand.
With Action News and AccuWeather.
Numerous tornadoes.
Your go-to team when severe weather strikes.
The water is still rising.
Keeping you prepared wherever you watch. Action News and AccuWeather, the team you trust.
Bitter end of Birds 365 with your Mac guys. Jeff Kerr asked you, first of all, he didn't know you were not out at the combine, but he asked you to read between the lines and the way Nick Sirianni spoke, if there was more to it than that. I'm going to ask you to do the same, Johnny Mac. And I don't even know that you can answer this question, but I'm going to cross my fingers and hope you can. The way that Jason Kelce performed on Saturday Night Live on Saturday night, did you read into that? Oh, he's still balling. He's coming back. He's still got it in him. He wants another shot at the Super Bowl that eluded his and his teammates' grasp. Or did he look like a guy who's ready to say, yeah, I got 3 girls and a wife, and I got
I know, man. Such a tough decision, tough prediction. Never mind, tough decision for Jason Kelce. I mean, early this season, Lane kind of let the cat out of the bag, I think by mistake. He was planning on this being his last season. But as it went on, he was having so much fun. I was pretty confident he was coming back. And he said Nick's philosophy that we talked about so much about, no
Downtime.
practicing and really helped him. He said if it were still Doug, he'd be retired. I mean, he can do it. So it's still, a physical grind for him. But boy, I think he had too much fun. And boy, 4 girls at home, that's a lot. I think he wants to keep going. So if I'm forced to make I think he's coming back.
Better to hit the cafeteria food at the NovaCare complex. Yeah. He speaks very highly of the grub that he gets.
Yes, he does.
And, oh, by the way, the reason why I brought it up, because we can bring it up at any time. We have been doing it all year long. And it seems, if he's going to do right by the Eagles, and I don't know that Isaac Seumalo is one of the driving forces in free agency.
He does love Isaac, by the way. Jason does. Loves him. Loves Isaac.
Right. But does he love Isaac more or love the Eagles more?
It's a good question. He's got to make the decision that's best for him. I mean, it's difficult, but yeah, I mean, I don't think keeping Isaac here, but it's ironic. If he stays, I've said this, if he plays, Isaac's gone. If he
more likely Isaac's gone, right?
I think Isaac's back. So I do think he's going to make the decision before free agency. I do think that. Howie said he's going to give him as much time as possible. And that could go into the summer.
Johnny Mac, that clock is ticking.
Hey,
Sunday is illegal tampering day in the National Football League.
We still got days, and I think it's going to happen. I'm on every day. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But I think he's going to give the Eagles an answer.
Okay.
Because they have to plan for life without him. I think he's going to give them that sort of deference. I think he's going to do that.
As do I, because Kelsey's too classy guy. He's not going to hold the Eagles over a barrel. But yeah, now that we've actually clicked off the Super Bowl and the Combine, and we look up and legalized tampering next week. So Jason Kelsey, do what you got to do this week. Meet with the people you got to meet with. Make the decision. Got to say, just don't go on a darkness retreat like Aaron Rodgers.
That's going to be your quarterback, Jody. Green Bay is done with him. They are done with the nonsense. I think he's going to be the Jets' starting quarterback. And by the way, that's good for the Jets because they're going to be a playoff team.
Yeah, but it's not.
Well, short term. Short
term, that's fine. Nice if they make the playoffs and not winning a Super Bowl. And we talked so much about connection doing Birds 365 here and how much Nick Sirianni has put that into the Eagles culture and made it work for him. Aaron Rodgers connects with the darkness. He's so friggin' aloof and so out of it. That's just not going to work. He's maybe the most talented quarterback in the history of the game, but now he's old. Now he's not as good as he was, and he's more aloof than he's ever been. Thank you. No, I agree. Tell me it's not Zach Pascal. Mike White. I want Mike White back. Bring back Mike White for Jet Green.
Joe Douglas is GMing for his job. Robert Sell is coaching for his job. Unfortunately, that's too much of the NFL. They have these 1-year windows, and if they make the playoffs, they're going to keep their jobs. If they don't, they could lose their jobs. And that leads you to make rash decisions for the short term rather than the long term. But I agree with you. Long term, it doesn't help. Short term, it helps a lot.
Yeah,
it'll help a lot.
I would have preferred Derek Carr in New York, but that's just me. But he will be playing for the Saints next year. Remember, there's a tie year. Howie Roseman and the deal that got him the number 10 pick also got a future second in 2024. So we'll see how Derek fits down in the Bayou. All right, J-Mac, good show today. I'm ready to go 22 hours from now. Are you?
Let's do it. We're getting closer, Jody. Let's legally tamper.
We'll do some tampering right here on Birds 365 tomorrow in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, We're talking about it, debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.